Alright guys, this is Juan from the Cine-Men Movie Podcast, letting you know that Rockstar Energy Drink is the official energy drink of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast. It's available in over 20 different flavors in 30 different countries, from sour apple all the way to the killer grape. Try it out now with over 300 milligrams of caffeine in some of these new Rockstars. It's the active energy drink for people who live active lifestyles. Get you a can today and listen to the Cine-Men Movie Podcast.
Like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare.
I'm your number one fan.
An eternal child. I am the eater of wolves and of children.
Please, God.
This is God.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
They're here.
Here's Johnny.
I see dead people.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
This, the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
What's music, eh?
I said, don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
Red rum, red rum, red rum.
Welcome to another edition of the Cine-Men Movie Podcast, episode 53, guys. 1 year in the making, joined here alongside with Zach.
What's going on?
And Ed.
Hello, how's it going, folks?
How's everybody doing today?
Pretty good. Yourself?
Pretty good. It's Monday. It's the best day of the week, and we are starting off horror season. I don't think we could have started off more with a bang than with It Chapter 2. I think we're gonna have a good conversation about it. Other than that, how's everybody's week been? How's everybody's week been?
Pretty busy, just pulling a lot of hours.
Like you said, it's Monday, so what can you say?
A good day for us, a bad day for Zach.
Hey!
Not so much a bad day, just,
It's Monday.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, though, but let's wish a very happy birthday to one Adam Sandler today. Monday, September the 9th.
Feliz cumpleaños.
But, let's get started. It's been, 53 weeks, and this podcast started 1 year ago this week with the Psycho episode, where we sat down and had a lengthy discussion about Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Today we're going to have a pretty lengthy discussion about It Chapter 2. What about you guys, though? Have you guys, checked anything out? Anything worth noting about or talked about?
I've got to say, I've been checking out a new series. It's only been out for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Wu-Tang, an American Saga on Hulu. Pretty much going over the lives of how the Wu-Tang Clan rap group came together and the struggles they had to go through and endure of their earlier lives when they were teens and early 20s. So, that's so far 3rd episode. Every Wednesday, new episodes come out, so we'll see about the 4th one. I like that pretty well. So, yeah.
Zach, what about you?
I watched a couple movies over the last week. I rewatched It. Obviously, we're going to talk It Chapter 2. I rewatched Green Book. I've started I've been really wanting to rewatch Breaking Bad. Now that El
The
Camino
movie.
is coming out on
It's
Netflix.
a few weeks away.
I'm going to be going through the awesomeness of Breaking Bad. And one of the other movies I watched, and we'll go into yours, is Brightburn.
Yeah. I'll start off with Brightburn. I checked it out in the week as well, and
What do you think about it?
I thought it was great.
You liked it?
I have heard a lot of mixed reviews about it, but to me, it's a lot darker than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And it's more of a horror movie than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
It's rated R for a reason.
There's I'm not going to give any spoilers, but there's some pretty graphic deaths in this
Yeah,
movie.
it's really, really graphic, guys. I highly recommend it. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I think it's one of those movies that was like under the radar because it came out a little after Endgame, I think.
It came out the same weekend as Aladdin, so it didn't get no recognition really.
But it's really, really dark. It's this pretty much the same story as Superman, only if Superman, wreaked havoc upon people
evil.
around him. Yeah. And then I finished the Friday the 13th series, getting ready for the Friday the 13th episode, the bonus episode that drops Friday the 13th. Other than that, I rewatched Chapter 1 as well from It. And then I think that's pretty much it. So I wanted to try to get recent watches out of the way so we can have a little bit more time to talk about not only the top 5, but also the film that we all saw this week. Usually I'll go around and say, hey, what do you guys think of the first time you've seen it to, get ready for the episode, but it just came out just a few days ago as we record this on the 9th of September. It came out the 6th. So,
Spoiler heavy, obvious.
Yeah.
We're going to talk top 5 here in a little bit, though, but the more and more I get closer to, we're just now digging into September, but the more and more I dig into October, we threw up a poll for the first episode of October, and it pit the Candyman against Night of the Living Dead, and I was really excited to do Night of the Living Dead, but Candyman just completely destroyed Night of the Living Dead. So it looks like the first episode of October is going to be Candyman. Next week we're going to dig into Hereditary, and then the week after that we will talk all things The Exorcist, which I'm a little excited to do The Exorcist. It's one of those movies that no matter how many times you watch it, it's dark. It's creepy.
It's unsettling.
Yeah. Which should we do though? Should we do the director's cut, the theatrical cut, or which one? I mean, which one do you own? Do you own?
I don't own either of them.
No.
So it's whatever you want to do.
Yeah. So see, this podcast is fun and educational.
Hey.
But Ed, we started this 1 year ago this week, and
Yeah.
this podcast has grown to lengths that I never thought it would be. We just had our most downloaded episode of the podcast last week with Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Right now it stands at 342 downloads in 7 days. So
7 days.
pretty big numbers for us. Facebook page is reaching 300, so everything is slowly climbing really, really fast. But want to say thank you to everybody out there. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/movie reels, REELZ 405, or you can just Facebook search Cine-Men Movie Podcast. We pop right back up. We are also on the Instagram at one word Cine-Men Movie Podcast. The Twitter is Cine-Men 405. The Snapchat is Cine-Men18. Ed, how do they find the YouTube page?
Pretty easy. Go on to the Facebook page, so facebook.com/movie reels, MOVIEREELZ with 405. That'll get you that Learn More button. Click that Learn More button. That'll direct you to the YouTube channel. Go ahead and hit the subscribe, like buttons on whichever episodes you like, or all of them if you like all of them. And then go ahead and subscribe to us and hit that notification bell, and you will be basically notified every single time we drop an episode. So every single Monday around 9 p.m. So get ready.
And then that leads us into, we're going to we're gonna not really rush through, but we're gonna talk top 5 here coming up, and then we're gonna talk some more It Chapter 2. All right, guys. I was a little off last week when we were talking about top 5s, but this week we are going to talk our top 5 movies just based off of a novel. So, do you guys have any honorable mentions?
No, I do not.
Yes, I have 5.
I only have 2, so I'll rapid fire through mine. Evan, Zach, you can go through yours. I'm just gonna say Misery with Kathy Bates, and Gone Girl starring Ben Affleck.
Okay.
What about you, Zach?
My honorable mentions, I hadn't read the book to them, but
Yeah,
my top 5 I have.
That's well, you're better than I am. I haven't read any of the books.
I'm a nerd when it comes to this.
So
my honorable mentions is Gone with the Wind, Silver Linings Playbook, True Grit, The Maze Runner, and probably my official honorable mention is Silence of the Lambs, which we will have an episode on that at the end of the month.
Just a few weeks away. Ed, do you have any? You said you had no honorable mentions.
Correct.
So we're gonna go into your number 5.
Number 5, I'm going to go have to put the Maze Runner series there. I do like the series quite a bit, actually. Just when they translated to the movies, a few things were kept out, and they should have kept them in because it added to the story quite a bit. But, artistic direction, so, it happens.
That's it?
Yeah.
Zach, what do you got at number 5?
Number 5 is My Dog Skip. Do you guys remember this movie growing up with Frankie Muniz?
Frankie Muniz.
Yeah.
That's the name I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah, just a good boy and his dog story. I cry every time we get to the ending of the film, and the book is very memoirish. Based off the author's life with a real Jack Russell Terrier.
I haven't honestly seen that movie probably since, I think it was maybe middle school when they showed it one time during school.
One thing
I forgot about that movie.
One thing is ultimately interesting is that you can go to a Walmart $5 bin and pick it up for less than $5, $3 or $4. So yeah, number 5 for me is My Dog Skip.
I haven't seen or read any of these books, but number 5 for me is going to be The Descendants, starring George Clooney, Shailene Woodley. That was a blind buy that I bought and watched, and literally ever since I've seen it, George Clooney's performance in that movie, I'm like, wow, how did he get? I think he did get nominated for an Oscar, but he didn't win. And then 9 years later, looking at A24, I'm like, is this an A24 film? But it's not. But it has that kind of feeling towards it, and 2 great performances.
And Shailene Woodley's actually pretty good in that.
Yeah, I think that might have been her breakout role until where she ended up getting a bunch of it. Yeah. So yeah, if anybody's out there wants to see it, it's directed by Alexander Payne. Terrific film. Pretty deep, pretty serious at times, but it's got some laughing moments. Ed, what do you got at number 4?
Number 4, The Princess Bride, actually. Novel was made in 1941, somewhere around the early 40s. I think 41. I'm gonna say, Fred Savage in the background behind, the book and all that. I thought it was kind of a cool little thing, and then having him as a small narration with the older guy, that was always pretty cool. The kind of obvious yet think humor, basically, humor to actually make you think a little bit, what the hell are they talking about sometimes? But that's one of the more famous lines, hello, my name is Nicola Montoya, you killed my father, prepare to die, kind of deal. So I've got to say I like that one. And I actually didn't know it was a book for a while. So yeah.
Zach, what do you got at number 4?
Number
Silence.
Silence. Oh no, I'm not actually seen that Scorsese film. Number 4 for me is The Road. It's based off the Cormac McCarthy book. He also wrote No Country for Old Men. The movie stars Viggo Mortensen, Charlize Theron's in it, Robert Duvall. Very kind of a dark apocalyptic film. It's basically about a father and his kid trying to just basically trudging through war, basically apocalyptic America. Very beautifully directed. The scenery is just amazing, and I think it's one of Viggo Mortensen's little underrated films. Have you seen it?
I haven't.
Yeah.
He's in a lot of stuff that doesn't really get looked at that much.
It's always like Oscar bait, but he never gets nominated or anything.
Yeah, like a history of violence.
Yeah.
I don't think he got nominated for that, but you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Number 4 for me is going to be Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, starring Joan Crawford and Betty Davis. I don't know about the book, but I know the movie is weird for its time. 1962. It's one of those movies that it almost feels Hitchcockish. I don't know. Have you seen it?
Now, have you seen the TV show Feud? It's about Betty Davis and Joan Crawford. Apparently, they like the filming of that. Apparently, they like hated each other.
Oh wow! What is it called?
Feud. I think it's from the maker of I want to say American Horror Story, Ryan Murphy.
Is it on a streaming device?
I don't know if it's on. I think it's on Netflix actually.
Nice.
As of right now, yeah.
I'll have to check it in on October when I renew my Netflix subscription. But yeah, I mean that movie is just dark. It's creepy. I got introduced to it probably really late, probably 2011, 2012, when the Digibook copy came out. And if you haven't seen it, if you're a fan of like old, classic films, I'd definitely go check it out. Ed, what do you got at number 3?
Number 3 was a little hard, but 3 I'd have to go ahead and hand it to The Shining. I have not read the book, but I've got to say it's been one of my favorite episodes that we've done so far. And I mean, I've heard the book has a few more things that are a little bit more disturbing. So, yeah. Yeah, good.
Zach, what do you got at number 2?
Number 3, I have
number 3.
Yeah. Oh, is that what we're doing? Yeah, number 3.
Yeah, 3.
It's the second one in the trilogy, or I guess technically quadrilogy, if you want to call it. Hunger Games: Catching Fire. I think the film adaptation of that is not only is it a great sequel to the Hunger Games, but it's also just a damn good action movie. Yeah, the whole sequence with the actual different when they come up and it's just like not a maze, but kind of like a circle going all the way around in the water. Yeah, it's definitely a worthy sequel to the original.
Well, the quarter quell was a huge thing because that was part of what the government had come up with to eliminate the victors little by little.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, you do have the hope. However, guess what? After a while, hope gets snuffed out. So, yeah.
Number 3. We're on 3, right?
Yes.
Number 3 for me is going to be A Christmas Carol. But it's the one from 1951.
Not the Jim Carrey version?
Not the Jim Carrey version.
You son of a bitch.
The one starring Alistair Sim and Jack Warner. I don't know why, but to me it's not Christmas until I see this specific version of A Christmas Carol. And I own like 5 different versions of it. And I don't know. If I had to pick one thing that I absolutely love about Christmas, it would be the story, A Christmas Carol. Just whether it's the book. I guess this would be the one book that I've read out of the entire list that I've done. I don't know. It's just, including the Jim Carrey version. You could throw all of them in there. Scrooged with Bill Murray, Patrick Stewart, made for TV one. To me, this is just my favorite part about Christmas. I think it's, still throwing a little horror mix into Christmas because I think it's a pretty dark story. So, Ed, what do you got at number 2?
Number 2 is kind of a tie right here. I'm going to go ahead and have to give it to both the Hunger Games as well as Harry Potter series.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Harry Potter's not number 1?
I know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited to see what number 1 is.
Oh,
Well-
I'm pretty sure number 1 is... Go ahead.
But I've read both complete series for that matter. Love one definitely a bit more than the other.
What is it? Hunger Games and...
Harry Potter over Hunger Games, 100%. 100%.
Hunger Potter?
Yeah, sure. Harry Potter was pretty hungry.
Harry Games?
For a while. He played games too. I mean, you know, he played games. But I mean, you know, I've got to say, I think that will always go down as probably my favorite book series forever. So, yeah.
Okay.
Number 2 for me is going to be... It's a film that I've only seen it once, but like I can appreciate why it's kind of cemented in pulp culture in the way that, like, not some... The book also, but the movie, just the performance of the main character.
You're not taking Twilight, are you? That's my number 2. I'm just teasing.
Yeah, you're right. Twilight Eclipse is my number 2. No, number 2 for me is To Kill a Mockingbird. I think Gregory Peck's performance in that movie is, you know, stellar, and I think that's pretty much what he's known for now. Is that your number 2?
That's my number
God
2.
Damn it. What do you think about the movie?
Let's have a little mini episode about it right quick. It's one of the reasons I fell into the art of film. It's one of those movies and performances that you just, I mean, I don't know, man. When you watch the movie, it's different from any other movie. I don't know if it's the performances or if it's just Gregory Peck. It's probably Peck. I don't see anybody else filling those kind of shoes.
Yeah, because Robert Duvall's only in it for like 5 minutes. But even the kids, I don't have the actors' names in front of me, but they were, you know, the fact that they were able to hold their own against Peck is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those movies. We should revisit it this week, and yeah.
Let me guess, do you have the digibook over here somewhere?
No, I wish. But it's definitely one of those movies that I think everybody who is just in love with film, you have to watch it at least once.
Mm-hmm. And have you read the book?
No.
It's a book that, you know, I understand it has its place in American literature. Obviously, you know, almost every high school in America has to read it at some point. But we didn't.
Well, I was gonna say, the funny thing about that is, in film class we had to do the class got to vote on what book to have a paper over, and being film class, I'm like, why do we have to do a paper over a book? It makes no sense.
All right.
But that's the book they chose, and my ass just watched the movie instead. I passed, by the way, but
good.
but yeah, it's just.
I know you're not a big reader, but it's something that I think everyone should at least read the book once. You know.
I do have somewhere around here. I do have a list of like the top 10 books I have to read.
Mm-hmm. And I've read this sequel or prequel or whatever you want to call it. Go Set the Watchman. Very different book. Very different.
Would you say that To Kill a Mockingbird, is there a reason that Hollywood hasn't tried to remake the movie?
It's half of it, I think, is rights. Harper Lee, until she passed away 2 or 3 years ago, had the rights for such a long time. Now that she's gone, I feel like To Kill a Mockingbird is in there with like Gone with the Wind, Wizard of Oz, Jaws. You don't mess with it. You know, we have it with the version that we need. We don't need to redo it.
Yeah.
You know, but we will. There is the Broadway play. I've heard it's really good though with Jeff Daniels.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've actually heard it's really freaking good.
I wish they would release some of those like they did in years past. They don't release
like a DVD.
like Cats or something. Remember they released those, but
yeah. Oh, we're getting a Cats movie. Don't worry about that.
Oh, no, I've seen the trailer. But yeah, that was my number 2 as well. Ed, what do you got at number 1?
Well, number one, I know that you two were expecting something totally different, but I went ahead and decided to mix up a little bit personally. So, well, we are covering it today. Just said it. It is it. You know, and I've got to say, I did love the miniseries as well as the first movie and the 2017 as well as this current movie. Andy Muschietti is quickly becoming one of my favorite directors just because of 3 different movies. I can't wait to see what he's got in store later down the road. I already know these 2 movies have definitely been opening up more roads for him. So pretty excited for that.
He's doing the Flash movie.
Yeah, that's what that's what I was kind of motioning towards. But yeah.
So it was number 1, huh?
Yeah.
Wait, what was number 1?
It.
No. It.
What was number? It. What? It. What? What was number 1?
It.
Oh, It the book and the movie. Okay.
There's gonna be a lot of that for the rest of this episode.
What is number 1?
I want to get your opinion on the book here in a little bit because I actually finally finished it right before I saw the new one, chapter 2. So I'm interested to hear what you think. Number 1 is, surprisingly enough, Harry Potter. Not so much the whole entire series, but specifically...
The Lord of the Rings didn't make your list?
I know. I haven't read the Lord of the Rings, so...
Oh, well...
You're like...
I didn't read none of these.
I've read all of them.
I know.
I actually had the leatherette bound.
Is it like
book.
a whole thing of him?
Yeah, it's...
wow.
Well, other than the Hobbit trilogy, it's the entire 16 books, I think. Because it was...
Oh,
well,
you mean like combined?
Yeah, because they were all cut into different books and then combined into 3 and then combined into 1. I think it was 16 original that he wrote, like 250 or 200 page books or something like that.
Yeah.
And then he combined them to like 500 or 600 and then a freaking 1800
page book.
Practically page fucking book. So,
that's those 2 looks were like CNN breaking news.
Practically.
But no, number 1 is, like I said, Harry Potter, but more specifically Deathly Hallows. I commend Hollywood for letting them have the ability to not only, number 1, do the whole entire series, but number 2 is to take the 7th book, which is like 750 pages plus long, and able to divide it up into 2 films, kind of like what we're doing with it. There's a lot of people out there that say, oh, they're just out there to make money. It's like, no, that last book is pretty fucking thick. There's a lot going on in that last one.
Yeah, okay. Because what a lot of people don't understand about novel to miniseries or novel to movie is usually about 1 hour worth of film is about 100, 120 pages, usually more around 100. So if you've got a 1,300 or in this case 1,100 and some odd page book like it is, that's an 11 some odd hour movie right there. Supposed to be. So I mean, unless someone's extremely articulate with how they mention every single little fluid motion and what they were looking like, how they look, and all that good junk, then you can cut it down, of course, because that's just filler. But you've got to figure that last book was either 759 or 829 for Deathly Hallows.
Yeah, it's like...
I mean, it took me 12 or 14 hours for a straight through read. I literally bought the book, got home, started reading. I didn't do anything other than literally go to the bathroom. I just read the book straight through. I'm not kidding.
No, that's cool. Like
goodness gracious me.
I was so interested in what happened. I freaking read
CP30, ladies and gentlemen.
I read the damn book and I didn't even know for at least 50 pages Hedwig died.
Yeah.
I didn't fucking know because literally it says something within 25 to 50 pages later about Harry couldn't believe she was gone, and I'm like, who the fuck died? And, gone back, and I was like, oh shit, Hedwig died. Are you fucking kidding me? Kind of.
I could just see you just throwing the book against the wall, like, God damn it.
Kind of, and I mean, after I found that, the main theme song for Harry Potter,
Hedwig's theme.
Yeah, Hedwig's theme. It means a little bit more so now. I mean, I know fictional animal for that matter, but still, yeah.
but if I had to pick probably one of the Deathly Hallows films, probably part 2, because it just like part 1 is like the penultimate, and then like obviously part 2 is the finale.
Combines everything together.
Exactly, and it's just that part 2 is just like a roller coaster. I mean, from start to finish, you're just like, God damn. So yeah, number 1 is Deathly Hallows.
I haven't read the book, but my number 1, and it's on my number 1 books to read, is The Godfather.
Oh, I was gonna say 50 Shades of Grey.
I've already read it.
Really has.
By Mario Puzo, crime novel. You guys should know me by now. The 3 films I think is one of the best trilogies in film history. So if I had to to go pick out a book right now, come home and try to read it, it'd be The Godfather, because I don't think that there's any.
Would you ever want you have it on your top 10 to read? Would you just want to read the first one, or just read the whole entire series?
I'd want to read the whole thing.
The whole thing.
The whole thing.
Does that include like the something I don't like?
Well,
I get why they do it, but like when the author
it'd probably just be this one.
Just The Godfather.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when the author of The Bourne Identity died, they still come out with like sequels and stuff. I was like, I don't know. I would just want to read like maybe the 1, maybe 3, but that's it.
Yeah. I mean, I'd sit here and try to argue with somebody all day long if they could somewhat come up and tell me that there's a better trilogy than The Godfather. I don't see it. I don't think that there is one. You have one? What is that? What is that?
Dinosaurs spared no expense.
Well, it's not a trilogy anymore.
The original still is.
Yeah, but that'd be like, oh, you can put Star Wars up there against The Godfather. Like, no, you can't. It's not a trilogy anymore.
I mean, you can.
Oh shit!
It's a saga.
If you cut it into thirds.
No.
Toy Story.
There's 4 of them now.
Yeah, it's quartets.
Lord of the Rings. I'm not talking about The Hobbit. I'm talking about Lord of the Rings.
It's a saga. If you argue with that's a saga, Star Wars is a saga. There's not another film trilogy that can go up against
Christopher Nolan Batman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fucker.
1B. 1B. But guys, that's what we're talking. Horror season starts today, and 1 year ago we talked Psycho. So today, episode 53 is all about It Chapter 2 with an $80 million budget. This film has already grossed $185 million over the weekend.
God damn.
Guys, let's go ahead and go round table and give a quick thought on, Zach, what about you? Your first time seeing it? Your only time seeing it. What did you think right
I
off
saw
the bat?
it 7 times between here and there.
Hey, once upon a time in Hollywood, I saw 3 times in the 3-day span.
It's about the time length is about the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it on Saturday in the IMAX. Almost completely filled up.
Wow.
Yeah. Overall, man, like I was impressed with it. Like I had a fear that maybe it wasn't going to live up to the first one, and I was worried about the time length, which was my biggest fear in the entire going into it. But man, like I wasn't bored one second of the film.
Wow.
So,
Ed, what did you think? I already know what you think.
I like the film. I mean, I've got to say, I think the story isn't for everybody, but as in, I think it definitely accomplished what it was supposed to accomplish. If you like a bunch of story, then yeah, you're probably not going to be loving of it. But I think you should accept it for what it is, and yeah.
we'll go into more specifics here in a little bit. But what about you?
I enjoyed the film. I definitely enjoyed the first one a lot better. The time did frighten me as well. If I had to, and it dragged for me. The first probably hour and 20 minutes completely dragged big time. So I wasn't completely in love with the film, the first half anyway. And we'll talk a little bit more about it, but I enjoyed it, but just wasn't. Were
you disappointed by it, or just didn't live up to?
I was disappointed in the length, and I was disappointed in the cast.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll get there, but I mean, overall, I think it's one of these movies that is a great end to what it was.
It's a good capper, I guess you could say. To the ending.
I told Ed before we started recording today that I saw reports where Bill Skarsgård said that he would be open to do a third film if the story was right. But I'm like,
no.
It's end. It's over. You don't really need anything else. So, but I mean, some of my notes we'll go off. I don't know if you have anything written down.
I do. Yeah.
In yours. But let's talk about the length. That'll be the first topic of discussion.
Okay.
2 hours and 49 minutes. Zach, you said you loved every minute of it. Ed, I think you're the same way.
Yep.
I wouldn't say I loved every minute of it. I just wasn't bored all the way through. Which sounds like you were.
I was bored throughout a little over an hour of it, and I don't want to completely shit on the movie.
It's
your
opinion.
But I enjoyed it. The thing, and I told Ed, the thing that I didn't like about it was the.
Did you guys go see it together?
Yes.
Okay.
The thing I didn't like about it was the cast.
And you. Okay.
No, ask me about it. Ask me.
Why didn't you? Because you had a really killer clown. You have a really killer cast.
Killer cast.
I'm having a stroke.
Okay. Jessica Chastain, loved. James McAvoy, loved.
Bill Hader was the star.
Bill Hader deserves. I think he deserves Oscar talks. I think he was the best part of the movie. Isaiah Mustafa.
That was Mike.
He was good.
Yeah.
My two that I did not like was Jay Ryan as Ben and James Ransom as Eddie. I thought James Ransom was completely terrible in this film, and every scene that he was a part of, I didn't like at all.
Okay.
I think if you have a top-billed cast of those first 3 or 4, I think you should put somebody else in those 2 smaller spots to try to feed off of them. These 2 actors, I think, just could not compete screen time-wise with the other actors.
I'm going to disagree with you on that, because with James Ransom, who played
Eddie Kasprak.
Eddie, yes. I thought when it was him and Bill Hader as Richie, I thought it was hysterical. They were able to feed off each other's energy, and it worked. But, I mean, what do you think, Ed?
I think that what you're actually really thinking about, and we talked about it earlier, was basically those 2 are predominantly TV actors instead of because I know Jay Ryan, if I'm not mistaken, that played Ben Hanscom. Mm-hmm. He is from Beast, or like a Beauty and the Beast thing with Kruick.
Yeah, you're right. From Beauty and the Beast from the CW.
Yes.
With Kristen Kruick?
Kristen Kruick, yeah. With her, she actually played off Smallville years ago.
Right.
So, I mean, I just think that maybe it was a little different than what he was used to. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think he did decent for what he had. But I do think that I kind of think they overshadowed them, is what it was. Like they're at a different level.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the whole reason I had an issue with it, because they're at a whole nother level, and he's just.
But Bill Hader is from TV.
Yeah, but I mean he's.
But have you seen him?
But he's translated into film.
Yeah, he had a role with Kristen Wiig in The Skeleton Key.
Yeah,
absolutely perfect fucking performance from him. Mm-hmm. To do something like this. He shines over the other 2 actors,
which is incredible, especially when you have Jessica Chastain.
But I mean, do you think Bill Hader is kind of typecast as the funny or the rambunctious. No,
This role's perfect for him because of the kind of actor he does.
Right.
You could make it doesn't matter what movie I think you could throw at him.
Have you seen Trainwreck?
Yes.
I haven't seen it. I heard he's really good in that.
Trainwreck. If anybody wants to go out there and say, hey, he this is the first movie where he shows acting chops, just do yourself a favor, go check out The Skeleton Key. It's one of the better movies of that release year, and he deserved talk then just like he does now.
Because I know that they had their eye on Jessica Chastain basically since they cast Sophia Lilia as Beverly Marsh, young Beverly Marsh. They had their eye on Jessica Chastain as the adult version of Beverly Marsh. They said they liked Bill Hader, but they weren't sure if he was going to be up for it and all that. And I heard pretty much once they came up to him and threw him the idea, he was like, "Hell yeah!" Well,
Finn Wolfhand, who plays young Richie, he was like, they asked him in an interview, "Hey, who would you want to play your older self?" And they said Bill Hader, and it got back to him. He was like, "Oh, that's funny." But then, like 3 months later, he was like, "Oh, I'm fucking doing it now."
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, Andy Muschietti said he actually wanted him, but he wasn't 100% sure if he would be up for it. Like if he thought it would be a good enough role for him.
So that's my probably one negative. And I told Ed maybe if those two actors were in the same level as the other three, maybe it wouldn't felt like it dragged for me.
Right.
Again, this is the first view for me. It generally has to be a badass film in order for me to like it really good the first time. Is this going to be the only view I have of it? No. I'm obviously going to buy it. I'll watch it then. I might go check it out one more time in theaters. But as far as the big negative, it would be those two actors, and it did feel I was surprised when it ended when it did, because I'm sitting here I was like, okay, I think it's going on 3 hours. When is this over? And it's like, credits started like 2:49.
Well, I mean, our showing when and granted, you got to take away the stupid advertisement and the trailer time frame, but our showing was at 7:10, and when it was over, I got my phone out. It was 10:10. So basically, for us, it was almost 3 hours.
I mean, I'm going to see it tomorrow night, so I'm going to go ahead and next week I'll have kind of.
Well, by the time we see you again, we won't see you. We won't see you until
you'll have your conclusive statement.
We won't. I mean, but we won't see you till the 30th, and that's the Silence of the Lambs film episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is definitely one of those movies that if you don't enjoy a 3-hour film, I don't think you're gonna like this at all.
No.
Unless you extremely liked the first film.
Yeah.
I mean,
but that's what
I'm talking really liked.
But that's what this movie it's grasping at. Those people that loved the first film, or that was a complete surprise to them, they're gonna come back and see this one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. One of the big positives I did have about the film was the top 3 build casts of Bill Hader, James McAvoy, and Jessica Chastain. What about you, Zach? That's my big positive of the film. And my negative. Did you have a negative about it all?
I just had some nitpicks here and there. I probably my biggest one is, what I liked about it is that the film opens up, other than the Adrian Mellon stuff, which we'll get to, it kind of shows where all the losers are at this, in the future. Bill is married to Audra, which is in the book, but I don't understand.
Audra didn't.
No, they don't do anything with it because she's in it for like 5 minutes and she's never brought up again, and she's a crucial part to the end of the book.
Yes, very, very crucial part, because I mean, even in the miniseries, she was a decent part in that as well. So in some of the turning points. But I mean,
I haven't read the book, or it's been about a year or two since I've seen the miniseries. But do you guys think, and you're talking about Bill Denborough's voice,
yes.
You think they did that to make more of a love triangle between Jessica Chastain?
Well, but she's not in the movie. Other than the opening scene
on
the movie set.
What I'm saying is, do you think they took her away from this film to make more of a love triangle to see if Bill would go after her? Yeah.
I would even kind of argue that they made it more about Ben and Beverly, for that matter, because I mean, ultimately they
ended up together.
It's the same thing with Beverly's husband Tom. He plays a crucial role in the book at the end. And,
Yeah.
We have the introduction of Beverly, and then that's it. And then, like you said, Johnny, I think it's just they're trying to limit it down to Ben, Bill, and Bev.
Yeah.
BBB, you know.
Have a little love triangle there, so you can see, who's she gonna end up with?
B-side.
What about you, Ed?
Nitpicks, I mean, just little parts like that were kind of just small little loops.
And you've read most of the book, but you didn't finish it, right?
I have not finished the complete book, so the ending, I want to talk about that here in a bit with you, because, but, yeah, I've read 3/4 of the book, if I'm not mistaken. So, just little bits here and there that were, open endings, basically.
It's just creative choices. Like, why choose that over what's in the book, or why not take that and just do something different, you know?
But, the only, I mean, to me, the actors was a big thing for me, but the only other small nitpick I have about it was some of the de-aging of the kids.
Yeah, that
it didn't look very good.
Was noticeable,
yeah,
especially with Richie.
Yeah,
because Finn Wolfhard, he's adolescent now.
Yeah,
his puberty's hitting, and his nose is a lot more bigger than.
And then the kid, the chubby kid, Ben. Yeah,
James
you could really notice it on his
Taylor.
cheeks, because I guess he's probably thinned out some too.
Yeah,
his cheeks were kind of like they almost look like they glue in the dark.
It's not as fucking bad as the mustache from Justice League.
That's true.
So,
this is true.
But I knew if I had known that they had de-aged some of the kids, I really wouldn't have noticed it.
That's true. You look for it. Yeah. How about your theater? Did you see the Birds of Prey trailer right before it?
No, I saw the Tenet trailer again. Christopher Nolan's movie.
Well, actually, in the theater we were at, the balloons came up as if we're getting ready to watch Chapter 2, and then the DC logo popped up, and
I was kind of like, what the fuck is going on here?
The DC logo popped up with the red balloon. I'm like, what the fuck is this? DC is doing this movie.
DC plug.
And then Harley Quinn pops up and says, "Aren't you guys tired of clowns or something?" And then it leads into a nice little trailer of Birds of Prey. So
yeah.
There's the DC plug for the episode, guys.
There was like 30 balloons.
It was hard to squeeze it in, but we did it.
Yeah.
Hey,
Thank you, Harkins, because that wasn't at your. Well, maybe it's because that was an IMAX thing.
Yeah.
So
we saw the trailer for. Well, we did have a DC plug. We saw the trailer for Joker.
Oh my god!
God, that's
which is going to be our bonus episode.
It is, yes.
Are
you going to join us for that, Ed?
Might. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I might.
I'm almost more excited. I think that's probably the one film, even though October is completely dedicated to horror movies. To me, that's the biggest bonus episode I think that we've probably done.
But if you kind of think about it, it is kind of a horror movie. Yeah. Because just of Joaquin's performance.
I am honestly, I think I'm looking forward to that more than I am Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that. Yeah.
I mean, not only the possibilities that you could possibly see at the end of that movie.
Yeah.
Any kind of Batman reference, I'm probably gonna lose my shit.
It's just Robert Pattinson just walks on screen.
Anything. Well, he's already. He's already test fitting the suit. So, but let's get back to It Chapter 2. One of the big positives, and Ed, we talked about this earlier, is how powerful the score was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely, the right crescendos at the right time with, the jump scares and the little suspenseful.
Suspenseful.
Right off, so.
That's a good word to use. Is that this movie was very suspenseful, and the scenes that the clown wasn't in, it felt like just a normal, thriller.
Yeah.
Which I enjoyed about it. I really liked that it felt like an old throwback thriller movie.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the score. Zach, what do you have? You have some of your notes that you might want to talk about.
Let's see. Did on the movie set with Bill and Audra, did you notice the director Peter Bogdanovich?
Mm-hmm.
He's like up there with Spielberg and all them. It was kind of like an Easter egg type thing. He's directed like The Last Picture Show and a couple other things. I thought that was kind of cool. The Chinese restaurant scene, which is in the book about,
and in the miniseries for that matter.
I did enjoy that scene.
I thought that was kind of cool. I was kind of worried that they were going to make it cheesy, but it got like really like what's going on here?
Little baby shrimps or whatever that was popping out. Those were kind of weird. Those were pretty cool.
They did have some cool. I will say this: there is a lot of cool like creature design in the movie.
So those were actually creatures from Bill Denborough's books. He wrote horror in that. And of course, most of Stephen King's novels, the hero or the main character is a author.
Speaking of Stephen King, did you like his little cameo?
I did. Yeah.
The shop owner.
I was afraid that I heard he was going to be in it, but I just didn't know. I was afraid he was just going to be like a bystander, but he had a significant role.
He still looks creepy as shit.
Yeah.
Okay. But those were supposed to be creatures of Bill Denborough's creation in some of his novels.
Right.
Especially that one spider-looking blob with a baby's head.
Yeah.
That was one of them. So.
I was kind of worried that going into it that we weren't going to have... Well, okay, this is another nitpick of mine. I didn't think the jump scares in this one were as good as the first one. Just because...
They weren't.
I think the more you see Pennywise, the less of a threat he is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
I mean, the whole sequence with Richie and Paul Bunyan, like when he's floating down from the... I was like, are we doing Mary Poppins? What are we doing?
Well, actually...
It wasn't bad. I just,
Funny enough, that was one of the first pictures behind the scenes that was released. Yeah. And on top of that, what's funny is James McVoy actually tore some muscles in his thighs doing this movie. So, yeah.
Probably riding that old ass bike.
Yeah.
Probably.
Hi-ho,
Silver.
I did notice that. I did notice that as well. Like, I feel like the more you see him, it's not scary anymore. It doesn't have that small little threat. Like maybe, like we talked about in the Jaws episode, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, come Jurassic Park episode. But the less you see, the better.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's why I enjoyed the first one so much, because when you did see him, you're like, holy shit.
Like, he's freaky.
Yeah. But the more and more you see him, you're like, I've seen this before.
I'd say probably, in my opinion, the best jump scare, I think was... Which is ironic, because the Beverly going back to her apartment, and it's in the there's a literally... The first teaser is like that whole sequence. Yeah. And they save it, and then... when that thing just jumps out at you, I was like, oh,
it's actually
here we go.
Kind of a decrepit old woman, wyvern, or not wyvern, but like siren style, I guess. She grew to like 10 foot tall.
Yeah.
Decrepit or, whatever have you.
Which the sequence actually ends with Bill Skarsgård doing the thing with his face.
That was
pretty cool.
I was wondering how they're going to fit that in, and I thought they did it. That was perfect.
Yeah, it was a pretty good scene. Probably my best jump scare would probably be when the little girl got her face bit off.
Oh my god! Like I will say, like the Pennywise's kills were just like ramped up in this one.
Do you want to be my friend?
So that would probably be that probably would have been mine.
Well, it was so perfect in that like you're supposed to count to 3.
Yeah.
And then it was also the one with the little boy in the mirror room.
Yeah,
like that was graphic.
I mean, I couldn't imagine being right there and seeing that, But.
Were you kind of afraid, like the trailer? There were some trailers that set it up to be like a very powerful or like a really good scene. Were you worried that like it wasn't going to do that, and that like the mirror room scene, it was kind of like he looks like he's about to eat the boy, but he kind of just.
Well, see, at that part, I didn't know if that was supposed to be Adrian or if he like had a kid in this one or what this adaptation or whatever. I was just like, what the fuck is the significance with this? Person he's chasing, or if he was hallucinating and chasing someone that he thought, because I knew it wasn't Georgie, but just the differences of hallucinations and then mind tricks, and I think to me it paid off. To me, I think they did good. I think they because they had to be more complex with it. It couldn't just be the regular. Oh, here's Pennywise. Here's his teeth. He's running after you.
They had to be
it's
creative.
Scary.
Yeah.
Plus, because you got to figure a 12-year-old is going to find something so much more scary than a 40-year-old will.
Right.
So when you're going from 12 to 39, 40, you change a lot. You see a lot. You deal with a lot.
Right.
So what you thought was scary as a kid, the dark, for instance, you might revel in it. You might love to be in the dark just to have silence, quiet, peace, and just be by yourself for a minute reading a book or some shit like that.
Right.
Or a movie, for that matter. But, I expected a bit. To me, they delivered. So.
I'll agree. I believe they delivered. I just think they weren't. They were creative in the way that they came up with something new, but what they came up with just was kind of. It just didn't have the impactfulness, I guess I could say, that the first one had.
Yeah, and I think that all comes down to monster overkill.
Yeah.
You see too much of Pennywise.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love seeing Bill Skarsgård as his character. I think he's excellent as it.
But you see too much of him.
Yeah.
I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street worked so good because you saw, just enough of Freddy.
Yeah.
The more the series goes on, you see so much of him. He's technically not only one of the movies.
Comedian.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But fingers crossed, if it ends like this and there's only these two, fuck it, you'll be all right.
I think the only way that they can do another It is to have a prequel. That's the only way. I mean, show what he was like back in the 50s or the 1800s or some shit. Because, I mean, like they stated, Pennywise or whatever the hell It is actually had been there for millions of years. So, I mean, that would be the only way, is to show a prequel of,
I think
you can catch it Friday the 13th, but they dug up Jason 12 or 13 times.
I just think
because at the end of the day, it's all about the cash.
Yeah,
I know, but I mean, like, if you have a good thing, which I know people are kind of mixed on this movie, but if you have a good thing, just don't have to
fuck it up.
Exactly.
I
mean,
put it harshly.
One of the other great things I wanted to talk about it was the gore. You don't see a lot of it, but when you do see it, the gore is the gore is good.
I mean, at the beginning of the movie, you literally see someone getting their under their armpit ripped out.
But some of the CGI is still kind of like man, I really wish that would have been like makeup, or I wish that would have been practical effects. But
because I mean, you can tell in the scene with Beverly Marsh, Jessica Chastain, and the toilet.
I love that scene.
That is supposedly one of the most amounts of blood that has ever been used in cinema history, for that matter.
Yeah, I'd like to see how much gallons of blood they use compared to Nightmare on Elm Street with the bed scene with Johnny Depp.
I think
if
I'm not mistaken,
you think so?
Yeah. I think if it's because it was literally like a pool that she was in. And it was churning over with those walls. If I'm not mistaken, I think that I read 2,500 gallons.
Yeah, it's the goriest thing ever filmed, I think. I'm pretty sure.
That's what I've heard cited as.
Yeah.
But actual numbers, I'm not 100% sure on that. So
I will say that I did enjoy the chemistry of the Losers Club more in the original. I think those kids had something that you can't really get that much on film. They just had that chemistry, and they felt like they were best friends. I didn't feel that kind of chemistry with the older adults.
I'm gonna disagree with you here. I think when the Chinese scene, when they get together and they start eating and just fucking around, I enjoyed the camaraderie of that. I think it was just literally a bunch of people that came together and said, "Oh, let's just think about good times."
Did you enjoy just that scene, or did you feel that they still had that chemistry throughout the movie?
I think they still had it all the way through the film, even the ending with one of the characters. Yeah.
I kind of got an explanation for that. With the first movie, the kids were actually kind of had to hunt. They were in contract, and they kind of had to hang out to get that chemistry and that vibe with each other and all that. And they went to arcades and different stuff like that, or at least that's what they've said in interviews, or and all that. And they did that for I think 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, somewhere around there, before the movie started filming, so they could kind of feel like we're all good to go. To where, like, the same with that, they did not even see Pennywise for the first time, or Bill Skarsgård in makeup for the first time, until the scene where he was contortioned in the refrigerator. That was literally the first time. So in that scene, in the first It, of 2017, that's the first. Those reactions are
real,
pretty much real, as real as you can get.
If you watch not the directors, if you watch the special features, there's literally like all the kids like on that day are just like, fuck, like we are like scared of our mind what he's gonna look like.
The one who plays Eddie, young Eddie, literally was getting drooled on by Bill Skarsgård, and after that, he's screaming and all that, and he's like panicking, screaming and all that.
Oh my god, I'm traumatized this kid.
Bill Skarsgård said he was thinking all he could think about was, I've traumatized this kid. Like, great, now this kid's gonna have to go through fucking therapy all because of me. So literally, he asked him, are you good? And he's like, oh yeah, you're doing great. I love what you're doing with the character, man. Yeah.
Sounds like a 30s Hollywood mogul.
To where with the second one, basically, you've got to think like these 5 out of the 6 moved away and forgot all about each other. So when Mike calls all 5 of the others, that's the first time they've heard that voice, let alone anything about Derry, Maine in 27 years. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't know about you, but some of the stuff I did 15 years ago, I'm not going to be like, oh, 100% remember that. But, it's kind of the allure of it, is you don't remember because, he makes more of the kids remember than the adults.
Right.
But, I mean, yeah, there was the chemistry did seem more together with the kids. It did. Because,
maybe they wanted it that way too because it's supposed to be 27 years and the adults probably didn't have that much chemistry.
You want to talk about the climactic battle?
Yeah, we'll get there. One more thing before we do get to the, kind of the bitter end is what did you guys think of the? What was I wanting to say? I kind of felt some cheesiness of the older, creepy, big CGI lady that was chasing after Jessica Chastain.
Yeah,
but it worked.
I think they were basically kind of comparing that with the one who did that to Stanley, the creepy woman painting.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what they were thinking about when they came up with that, but yeah. Because literally in the book, what she's supposed to do, the cup of tea because she brings out the cookies and they have cookies and all that, and she starts seeing different things, and she's like, I did see Marsh onto the front door. I did. It's this and that and this and that. And she actually finds out she's drinking water basically out of the sewer. So she's drinking gray water.
Since you did say book, I do want to add, this will mostly be towards Zach. You finished the book, you rewatched chapter 1, and, talking about chapter 2. Out of the 3, or I guess the 2 main movies and the book,
and the miniseries.
You've seen the miniseries. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did you get to rewatch that recently? No. You remember it?
Yeah, I remember it. I will say this:
terrible.
All the people that shit on this movie, you have to remember. I will say part 1 of the miniseries is good.
Yeah.
Part 2 is just horrible.
This
is way better.
It's garbage.
The miniseries.
I do enjoy the like you said, the first half of the miniseries. But when it comes to the book and the newer movies, what did you think? And do you think, is there any scenes that you would take out and put in from the book, or vice versa?
So,
and let everybody know. Share with everybody. You live life. Life is tough. How long did it take you to finish that book?
Damn, dude.
When did you start?
I bought that book on Valentine's Day, and I literally finished it Tuesday before the movie came out.
So 6-7 months.
Granted, I didn't read every single day,
right?
But
who has time for that?
Exactly. But I think this movie, it's very faithful to the book. It does a really good job of literally, I wouldn't say overstuffing it. Just it has the right amount of, we're going to take this, we're going to take that, we're going to leave that out,
Out of all the books you've read, comparison to the movies, and that's what our top 5 was based off of, would you say this book, or this 2-part movie series is the best comparing to the book than any other movie would? Despite the Harry Potter series, maybe.
Right. I could say that, yeah. It's very, they did a really good job of
respecting that, even respecting, because I felt like the Chinese, the Jade
the dinner table scene?
Jade or whatever have you, that setting kind of was reminiscent of the actual miniseries diner scene and all that. Jade of the Orient.
Yes.
Restaurant. Plus, I mean, don't get me wrong with the fortune cookies, with the, like y'all said, camaraderie of the dinner and all that good stuff. Because you do have that scene in the book as well, and I mean, if you're going to do that, of course, there's going to be a little bit of depictions of your own artistic value, let alone someone else's, because you don't want to literally rip it off.
Right.
But if you're trying to do decent to the book, at least, then you're going to have to rip some off of each other, just because that's what content or subject matter is in the book.
Right.
So,
but
the source of creation is the source of creation.
Yeah, I totally agree. And plus, one of the things I found it was an interesting choice is to make the backstory of Pennywise. Obviously, we know we're going to get to the ending here in a minute, but it's been here. It's had contact with other like the Native American tribe. They found a way to destroy it. I really like that aspect of the movie. That's not in the book. They kind of talk
the ritual
about
of Chud is,
the ritual of Chud is, but not the Native American.
Yeah, not exact, because Bill has like a LSD psych trip practically, and talks to I forget the name, but the turtle.
Martin, I think it is.
Yeah, I think. But yeah, it talks to the turtle, and that's why the turtle in the classroom, and then in the first movie, Georgie had a Lego turtle, and there was a bunch of turtle references. Is basically referencing that, and that the ritual of Chud is going to come in there. A lot of people were speculating that they were going to have the turtle in there, or even because I mean when Mike gave him the drink that he unknowingly had drank with the root powder or whatever in it. That's where I was like, oh shit, here it comes. He's gonna, and it did, but not so much. It was,
I didn't think we were gonna have a talking turtle. I mean, obviously, there's literally a scene where I think Bill or Richie or one of them literally walks by a statue turtle. It was just references, like, hey, we're not gonna do the turtle, but here
was
it is.
Other than the classroom?
Yeah, it was like
had one in.
It may have been Ben.
Yeah, it was Ben.
It was
the
Ben.
Classroom.
No, not in the classroom.
Because that's when he had his flashback.
It was Ben in his home, like before he came to Derry. There was a scene where there was a metal turtle on the floor somewhere. But
okay. Huh.
But
because basically, all in all, what the turtle and Pennywise represent is life and death.
Correct.
Turtle is the creator. Pennywise is the eater of worlds, the destroyer. So basically the god and the I guess the Reaper. I don't know, for better reference, I guess.
One of the things that's in the book that there's no way they were able to get away with this in today's age was towards the end of the book there is an orgy with the kids.
Yeah.
There's no way they can get by with that, which is fine, because I think if it was going to happen, it would have happened in chapter 1, but really what they only did to replace that was Beverly being taken, and the kids have the boys have kind of band together to get her back, basically.
But I mean, other than that,
what did you think about the going towards in the ending, from the time they get into the house until everything's over? I talked to Ed about this. Was not only do I feel like we saw too much of Skarsgård as it, but I felt like he was over CGI'd, if that makes sense.
I was so worried about this because, if you've read the book, you've seen the miniseries, it's a spider. It's basically a giant spider.
Yeah.
I was really worried going into this that it was going to look cheesy, it was going to look stupid, but I thought the visuals of it, they pulled it off. I really wasn't expecting Pennywise's head on the spider. I was just kind of expecting like a very brutal, disgusting looking thing, which it really is. But
kind of like the miniseries, but a lot better of a creation.
And they have more of a budget to do it. And I liked how they the spider kind of transports them to their own fears of Ben being kind of buried alive in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Beverly in the bathroom with the blood. Ben
in the school.
in the not Ben.
Wait.
Bill in the cellar with Georgie saying, "You lied and I died."
Oh,
Basically, he didn't want to go play with his
I
brother.
really enjoyed that scene.
Mm-hmm.
If I could pick, I'll throw that out there. It's probably like straight on dialogue wise, that was probably my favorite scene.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. Even with what the meaning was behind the bolt, for that matter, the sheep gun.
Mm-hmm.
That you know when James McAvoy looks up from the water and sees his hand basically puppeteering Georgie and all that, like he was Pennywise in that scene, going back to the first movie,
Mm-hmm.
and then he comes down as younger him and sees, oh my god, you know, there's Pennywise and he's puppeteering my brother basically, and my brother's supposed to be dead. What the hell?
Right.
You know, I thought it was kind of crazy that they had that little revelation that he just didn't want to go outside that day. It was good, you know.
Yeah.
Now, was that literally part of the book? Because I hadn't got to that point.
No, it's not.
So that was their spin.
There is one of my favorite scenes is when Richie is kind of talking shit to Pennywise. He was like, "Yeah, we're gonna get you," and it's just he gets deadlight. It's just like,
oh my god, yeah, that was just like, "We're gonna get you, mother."
And then he just gets like hypnotized by the deadlights, and so that in the book, Bill and Richie get hypnotized.
Right,
and
right,
so
right.
Bill gets hypnotized, and then Richie has kind of quote unquote got to go get him back before he gets eaten. And so that was I think that was kind of a cool tribute, because what ends up happening to Eddie is that he kind of saves Richie, but he ends up dying.
Yeah.
So, which he dies in the book, but it was kind of a nice way of doing it.
Well, in the miniseries, for that matter, he kind of becomes the martyr of the group, for that matter, because they all kind of band together even harder. What did you feel about all of them with Mike? You know, oh, you lied, fuck you, you lied, kind of deal. I mean,
I didn't understand that until I had to. I kind of read this plot synopsis to make my notes.
He didn't really truly lie. He just didn't divulge all of the truth.
Well, your friends wouldn't go with you. You said it'll work, but you gotta die for it to work.
Yeah, well, I mean, not even that, but I mean, we're gonna fight a psychopathic monster that's supernatural. So hey, come on, let's do it.
Old. Right.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, Eddie especially, because he's a fucking risk analyst. So I mean, yeah, you know.
I was half expecting him to have like a graph say, okay, here are our chances of survival.
I really was too. I was just like, oh shit, he's gonna break this whole thing down. Watch. How'd you like his scene with it in the pharmacy? You know, with the girl that was a bit of a jerk to him, being like 38, 40 years old, still kind of stuck in the same damn place, same hair, same jacket, and all that shit.
And the pharmacy being still alive after all this time, the pharmacist.
And then it looked like he was snorting or taking something there for a second.
I didn't know this, but after did a little bit of research, Andy Muschietti is actually one of the people in the pharmacy when Eddie goes in there.
I didn't notice.
He was one of it was cameo, I guess you could say.
One of the customers.
Yeah.
Oh shit. And I kind of liked how it brought, you know,
that full circle.
The younger Eddie up, and I think that's the main reason, because I know one that you kind of had a dislike for that for the actor not being up to par with the other with three of them.
Yeah, the only scene I enjoyed of the actor was the pharmacy scene where he goes down and gets thrown up on from that creature.
Fucking
yeah.
I kind of think they went a little too far, and I'm not talking about thematically, just kind of like.
I think they went too far with the leper and the mom.
Yeah,
that was.
I think they could have cut it off where what the
Yeah, that was a little weird. And then of course Henry Bowers coming back.
Oh, and that's one of my other big things. This goes all the way back to the book. If you're gonna have that character come back,
yeah,
all he really does is he attacks Eddie and then he dies. That's all. I'm just like, what's the point of that? And that goes, like you said, that goes to the book, you know.
And I mean, actually, I think in the miniseries, doesn't he pretty much not fatally but near fatally wound Mike?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, and Mike's taken out of the group to where it's only Bev, Eddie, Bill, and
Richie.
Ben.
Yeah. Yeah, and that does happen in the book where he is mortally. I'm glad they changed that because I liked Mike. I don't think he really had much to do.
Yeah, Isaiah Mustafa, I think, played him very well.
You know who I just thought of? Well, not really because he's not that age as Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah,
he could have played.
Way too.
He's
way
too young to do it. Yeah.
I did like how what's his name? You just said it. Isaiah Mustafa did look a lot like the original actor who played him in the miniseries, Tim Reed.
Yeah.
I think you put them two together, they look almost identical together.
That, him and Chosen look a little bit similar too. I mean, not much, but they do a little bit. Chosen, the one who played younger Mike.
Oh.
His name's Chosen Bozen or something like that, I think.
Johnny, I think me and Ed, I think we both enjoyed the finale. You know, you said that it was too CGI'd for you.
The It character itself, Pennywise, I think was. I felt like he needed to be more. If you're going to overdo him in the movie, I felt like the actor should be more portrayed instead of just having the big CGI. Thing.
You think it should have been like a big Pennywise?
No, I don't know. I mean, I'm not. I like I said, I didn't read the book, so therefore I don't know that much about how the ending should have been. Or what should have been?
I mean, that basically happens. I mean, they just changed a couple things. I mean, it's basically the same ending of the book.
I enjoyed the ending. I will say that the last 45 minutes was probably the best that I've seen as far as horror films this year.
The beating of the villain.
Yeah. The last 45 minutes was superb, and it outperformed the first hour and 40 minutes of slow time for me.
So it's kind of like a redemption thing. Okay.
Yeah, he even said that right after the movie ended too. Literally right after the movie ended.
The ending saved it for me. I kind of felt like we were going downhill fast, and then it picked up and it
kind of saved itself.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, since you did finish the entire book, I want to ask this of you. The ending, and I mean the dead ending after the battle. Yeah, Richie.
Well, before we get there, let's let everybody know that this is high spoiler territory now.
Yes.
So the ending, they get together. Explain the whole lights coming down and the blue lights. Since you finished the book. What are the lights that make him go into something that's smaller to where he shrinks and shrinks?
Well, that so much isn't the dead lights. It was the Losers Club kind of banding together and say we have to make him smaller than what he actually is.
Pretty much over their fear, basically.
Yeah, conquering their fear, and he just shrinks until finally he's like this little. Because I was really afraid what they were going to do, if that was going to happen, and they just stomp on him, and that's going to be the end of it. I was like, oh, please don't do that.
Well, what did they do in the miniseries?
That's basically what happened. In the book, that's what happens.
They stomp on him?
Yeah, they basically kick the shit out of him until basically he's, so weakened, and then they just stomp on him, and that's it.
And then they just walk out of that house.
Yeah, they try and rescue Eddie, but something else that's going on during this whole thing, which I'm kind of surprised they didn't do, was... The battle of it creates this effect of the weather where basically all hell's breaking loose. There's this giant flood and it floods the whole city, and it's basically destruction. The whole town is kind of sinking in on itself, kind of thing. The layers being destroyed.
Yep.
I'm surprised they didn't do that. What ends up happening in the movie is that the Nesbilt house basically caves in on each other. Nebolt caves in on itself. And they're trying to rescue Eddie, but he's already dead, and so they leave him, that does happen in the book.
So I mean, I kind of feel like that would have been a little bit. While they're still battling the clown in the book, the city is being engulfed in water. Basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And then they beat him, and then the flood just goes away.
The flood stops, and the road that they're under, they're underground under the city, and the road that is there, it kind of caves in on itself, and they're able to walk up from the street, basically, to street level.
That sounds like it would have been a pretty badass visual ending with
Yeah.
the way, the kind of budget, Hollywood has now. Probably would have been a pretty kick-ass scene.
I was kind of hoping they did. I was kind of hoping they would do that, but I like this one a little bit better because it's just not chaotic. Because there are pages and pages and pages of the people that they mentioned earlier in the book. They die, they get decapitated, these buildings are basically falling on each other. It looks like a Michael Bay movie.
It's pretty much Armageddon.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, yeah, the ending for me is tremendous. It saved the film for me. You both love the ending. Ed, I think you were about to bring up the relationship between Eddie and Richie.
So, okay, obviously, Richie, Bill Hader's character is in the drop-top 5.0 GT Mustang. And he goes to, I forget the name of the bridge, but Derry Bridge. And
Kissing Bridge?
Kissing Bridge, yes, thank you. Goes to Kissing Bridge. In the first movie, you really see that when Ben Hanscom is actually getting Henry Bauer's initials carved into his stomach. And the car passes by and they ignore it. In this one, you see it a couple times driven by, and this time I'm talking about is after the battle, and Richie goes back to it and actually starts taking a pocket knife out and carving R+E. And to me, that was kind of like, was Richie and Ed, because they mention, Pennywise mentions a secret that he knows in the Paul Bunyan scene, mentions a secret that he knows about Richie.
So you want to ask him in the book, is there a relationship?
Yeah.
No.
That, because I mean, that's the only insinuation of a secret or anything, especially because R+E, there was no other E in there.
So if it's not in the book, why do you think they would add that?
I mean, I don't know, to kind of...
What do you think, Zach? I mean, you read the book, you finished it. What do you think?
Personally, I didn't pick up on that. I didn't pick that they were hinting at like a gay relationship. I think they were just like really good friends, and the fact that one of them is now gone forever.
Well, I mean,
is that it's sad.
There's only 3 reasons why I'm saying this. Reason one is the secret. Pennywise said he knew of Richie, and Richie needs to tell the group the secret. 2, in the scene of him playing Street Fighter with Henry Bauer's cousin, he gets called the other F word.
Right.
And he runs out, basically. And that kind of was like...
That wasn't in the book either, was it?
No.
That's weird, stuff like that. So it was like, okay, why are they putting this kind of stuff in there? And then, I mean, it's kind of like a kissing tree, if you will.
I will say, to me, it doesn't make any kind of sense, and it doesn't even need to be brought up unless they really let you know, and they kind of just let your minds just think about it.
Yeah, and I'm just going, okay, was it supposed to go somewhere, and it was just bits and pieces that they put through, and
that right there saves the film 6 minutes that you don't need in the movie.
Right, and I mean that was kind of extra dialogue.
And I didn't know,
so.
I didn't think about it until you said, "Hey, he's carving that at the end of the bridge," which that's fine. I mean, I think that was a really beautiful scene of him saying, "Hey, I lost my best friend. I'm putting my initials on this bridge where, important things might have happened."
But see, the only thing I'm confused on that is that him and Stan were more best friends because he was the only one that went to Stan's bar mitzvah, the only one of the entire group. And I get that he is. I think he was the only other one.
He was Jewish too.
Was Jewish. But I mean, if he's Eddie's best friend, why wasn't there more significant scenes showing that? You know what I mean? It just is confusing to me.
Like I said, those 3-4 scenes are like almost 10 minutes that probably didn't really need to be in the film then.
There's no clarification of it. They don't come out and say, this is it. But I mean, I think it was just kind of trying to allude and just kind of they left it open ended of like, well, are they? Are they not? I don't know. Is it just friends? Him missing his friend.
Which I mean, very well could have been, and but it just kissing bridge. And all that, and I'm just like, okay.
We're gonna go ahead and talk favorite scenes. Ed, we'll start with you. If you had to pick a favorite scene or two, which one would you?
Definitely 2 come to mind. Number one, I'd have to go ahead and say the diner scene. Of course, I think that is going to universally be almost everybody's, just because that was such a nice scene. It was good dialogue, good, chemistry and reaction and all that different stuff trading off of each other. So that was nice.
Right.
And then the second one, I would have to say the Ritual of Chud, just because of how they actually went about it. You have to sacrifice your token, and then Beverly and Ben being so close together yet so far apart, and that was kind of the start of the motion of wheels and all that good stuff with that.
Zach, what about you?
Aspect.
I don't know. You kind of took the one I was going to say. The Chinese restaurant. That is probably one of the highlights of the film. Like I said, it's just the camaraderie of the group. And I know my other one is probably, I know it's a graphic scene, but the little girl's death under the bleachers. I think that was probably not. It's not obviously. It's not the best scene of the film, but it's definitely.
It's the darkest.
It's the darkest
I like
scene.
it.
Yeah.
That's one of
that is what I think.
That's what
some of the movie was lacking.
Yes, that's what it should be. You hit it right on the spot for me. That scene right there is my favorite. I felt like it needed more evil. It needed to be darker. It needed to be just straight up, fucking dark.
I don't know. I mean, if they had saved Pennywise to the end of the spider sequence, I'm wondering if they had just shown the different forms of it as the characters went on. I wonder if it would have had a bigger impact on it.
Let me ask you guys one thing. I kind of forgot, but the opening scene with the two kids getting beaten down and then it taking a bite of the dude's armpit.
That is in the book.
Who were those two? Just random people?
It was just, there's a whole backstory of this crime that had happened, and they think the boyfriend had killed him or whatever, but it was actually Pennywise. And they say there's a scene where he's being interrogated, the boyfriend is, and he said, they did this, they did that, but there was also a clown, and everyone's like, the fuck are you talking about? There's no clown. And that's basically referring to that scene.
Okay. The little girl getting hers, where she got her face bit off, I enjoyed that. I think, a good horror movie needs a little kid to die.
This one got...
So your 1A and 1B is the kid dying in the mirror room?
I enjoyed that, yes.
Yeah.
Which means if I have to talk about a favorite scene from the original one, it would be Georgie dying, getting his arm eaten off, and then he turns around and it looks like fucking the scene from Predator when Carl's Weather got his arm fucking bit off. But yeah, I enjoyed the two kids dying in Chapter 2, and then I enjoyed the Chinese restaurant scene. So yeah, those three are just really good scenes. But like I said, the ending really picked up, and if I had to sell somebody to go see this movie, I would say, hey, if you enjoyed the first one, and if you want to see how it ends, and if you just want to see some good, a good 90-minute of horror film, I know it's not 90 minutes, but the last probably hour and a half is really, really good.
It's almost like the equivalent of the final battle in Endgame, how everything kind of just wraps up, basically. I think this film, I think it's going to suffer in rewatchability just because it's just almost 3 hours long. But like I said, I wasn't bored all the way through it. I had a lot of fun watching it.
This might be one of those movies where we could probably talk about it in 6 months, and
I think we're going to be saying
your rewatch might be my rewatch might be I typically enjoyed it now.
Yeah.
But like I said, my only two nitpicks was those two actors. I feel like if you that would be like casting a movie with, Jack Nicholson, Robert De Niro, and then you have maybe, let's throw
Zachary Levi
or Arnold Schwarzenegger in there trying to win an Oscar. That you have three really good actors, and it showed that those two weren't good actors. But that would be my only nitpick. Ed, let's get some star ratings going on. What would you give this film?
I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
Strong.
Zach, what about you?
I'll give it a 8.5.
8.5.
I think like you said, Johnny. I think after my rewatchability, and once I see a couple more things later this year, it might go down. So, but what about you, Johnny?
Mine is going to be a 7. I rated the first movie a lot higher. I gave the first movie a 9, and I gave this movie a 7.
I'll go one step ahead of you. I'll do Chapter 1 a 10 out of 10 because that was one of my favorite films of 2017. And then 8.5 for this one.
I almost say with this one, my biggest praise is Bill Hader.
Oh yeah, he was definitely by far the best part.
His acting, everything he puts up into this film is amazing. Steals the show. I still really, really like the first one a lot better. But if you guys can't, even if you really liked the first one, if you can't handle a 3-hour film, I don't think you're going to enjoy this.
No.
Because at some points it does feel like a 3-hour film. But like I said,
because I was kind of looking at some of the audience members in our screening because we were on the top row and I was kind of looking down, and there were some people I was just like, they could tell that it was just draining on them.
Yeah, I will say do your research and take a look at the runtime before you go spend the money on it. If it's one of those movies that you just don't feel comfortable in a public theater for 3 hours, I'd wait for the red box.
Yeah.
But
before we wrap up at Chapter 2, I was going to ask Ed, since this was probably your most anticipated for the rest of the year, did it excel? Did it stay? Or were you kind of disappointed?
Meets expectations as well as does excel a bit. I can get the whole thing about it is long. It is not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Personally, I liked it quite a bit. Maybe not as much as the first one, but definitely up there. 100% better than the original, the miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely better than what I truly expected, because I didn't know what direction they were going to go with. But
would you be like Zach here, though, and if you had to rate the first one off head, would you give it a 10 out of 10?
I'd say about 9.5 out of 10 for the first one. So about
and then you gave this one an 8?
A 9.
You gave this one a 9?
Yeah. 9 for 2, 9.5 for 1. Just love both of them. Think they're really solid films each, personally. Second one, just a little long. I can agree with that, to be fully honest.
And I think this is considered, both parts together, I think it's easily considered one of the better Stephen King adaptations.
Yeah.
In all his works.
I think we can agree on that.
So, I mean, I
unless you're Green Mile or Shawshank.
Yeah. That's probably 1 and 2, probably. But then
But yeah, definitely. I'd have to say this is probably going to be one of my favorite movies of this year so far.
Okay. Guys, we are entering, uncharted territories for a lot of podcasts out there. We're entering year number 2, season number 2. I'm going to ask you guys right here. We're going to have a small little chat up about what's to come and what's in store for this show, for this format. And I'll start with Zach, and I'll go all the way around. All the listeners out there have noticed that there has been a change weekly. We went from like a 2-hour podcast to almost, a 2.5-hour podcast to sounding like a radio show to having more segments and more different things to chat up. And then the very ending would be about a 30-minute conversation about the movie we did. Well, now we've kind of just switched it to where we'll have about a 20-minute opening and then about an hour-long talk about the movie. I'll start with you, Zach. First off, I'm really glad that you called that one day. And I'm glad that conversation led into what it has. I want to say thank you. I want to say that
That's all, folks.
I want to say that I really think that this thing is growing really fast. It's almost grown really, really fast and popular overnight. Do you think everything as far as the way the show has slid into and conversations about movies, what do you think about it, and what maybe are some things that we could probably talk about in the future?
Like topics?
Yeah.
Or different films or whatever?
As far as like format goes first.
Oh, the format. The fact that I'm actually getting to do this, before I even made that call, it's gonna be like a myth of the podcast. Before I even made that call, I've always wanted to do a film podcast because I'm just like a big cinephile, and so. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't have the funds to do it. I didn't have the equipment. It's better to have a group of friends to do it than just doing like a 7-minute thing.
Or the Losers Club,
basically. And I kind of think that the segment part of the show, while it was fun to talk about, what was good at the box office and some interesting facts about the film, I just kind of think it just kind of. I don't know if it ran its course. I just think it was a little too much. Because especially when you have top 5, which is basically our main. And
what a lot of
potatoes, as you
right.
say.
What a lot of people don't realize is how I can log in and see what clicks and what doesn't click, and what people tune into them when they hit that exit button. And from when the show really kicked off, is a lot of people would stay until the top 5. And then the top 5 would start airing at that 45, 50-minute range. And then, boom, the exit button would hit and nobody would stay for the end of the show.
Right.
So that's why, we'll do top 5 within the first 10, 15 minutes. And then we'll just kind of talk about the film. Ed, what about you? Format goes, do you think everything, is there anything that can probably be bumped up a little bit? If you were to listen, do you enjoy the format?
I do. I mean, personally, I do. There's not really much I've got to say that I think is bad. We're kind of relying just on word of mouth. I mean, in all honesty, that's all it really truly is. If you're talking about view count, if you're talking about viewer count or listener count for that matter. I don't know. That's why we're starting to do, bonus episodes. So if you're not one for a 2-hour conversation about whatever it is, then, maybe an hour and a half is more your speed. Then listen to our bonus episodes. I mean, there's just different tastes for everybody out there, because not everybody's a horror fan, not everybody's a suspense fan, not everybody likes rom-coms or thrillers. I mean, personally, I'm not really a big rom-com person, but... if we all decide to do one, then okay, so be it. I'm going to watch it, and I'm going to give, a take.
But let's talk about the next 3 weeks, guys. Next week, we're going to have a conversation about Hereditary, directed by one Ari Aster. Zach, what are you most looking forward to about Hereditary next week?
I'm really looking forward to rewatching that. I think it's a very underrated horror film.
This will be my first rewatch since the theater, and then I bought it on Blu-ray. So we're going on about a year now.
Eddie, you won't be on that episode, which I'm sad, because I was really looking forward to know what you thought about that.
Unfortunately, guys, we won't have Ed's conversation skills with us until September the 30th for Silence of the Lambs. But next week, Zach, you said you're interested in the rewatch. If there's one word you can use to get people out there to watch this film next week and listen along with us next week, what would it be?
Fuck.
Mine would be different. Mine would be different, because I think, though this is a great horror movie, I don't think it's...
It's nothing that you've ever seen before.
Right. It's not out there for everybody. But it is definitely one that when you finish it, you're going to be like, what the fuck?
I'll say my thoughts on it. Yeah.
So next week, we're going to talk all things Hereditary. The following week, September the 27th, we are going to discuss The Exorcist, which I think... hands down is in my top 5 horror films of all time.
Definitely.
And then the following week is Silence of the Lambs.
Ed's Return.
The only horror movie that has won an Oscar.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about in the next 3 weeks. And then Candyman has won our poll. And I think the week after that is going to be the original Saw film.
The original Saw.
So...
Also, early in October, we will be doing a bonus episode of
Joker.
So.
I'm really, really excited about that film. Usually we wait to do the bonus episode in the middle of the month. But I think as soon as that movie gets done, we're going to have to go and talk about it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, until then, guys, this has been a great year, a great 2019, and season 2 is kicking off. Ed, do you have anything else to say?
At the moment, no. So this is Edward signing out.
Ed, we will talk to you on September the 30th. Zach, we will see you next week. Thoughts on this episode or anything else?
You'll float too.
Not only will you float, but guys, The Hereditary is next week. I'm excited. Don't forget, drink up some of Rockstar, and next week is all about Hereditary. Toni Collette steals the show. Check out the movie. Come back and rewatch it with us next week, or listen to us next week. And then don't forget, Friday the 13th, our bonus episode drops as we talk all things Jason Voorhees and Friday the 13th. It's the debut of State of the Franchise. So don't forget that drops Friday the 13th, and we will listen and talk to you guys next Monday for Hereditary. Thanks for listening to the Cine-Men Movie Podcast.